We have Jill and Terry Moody here from Letcher, South Dakota. Came all this way. Jill's been down here rodeoing and doing quite well. As you all know, you've seen Jill on national TV at the NFR with the gray horse standing behind her. This is Dolly, and her won over $170,000, won third in the world. Jill just kind of came on the scene national-wise. Everybody up north knows Jill because she's been in the Amateur Association and been rodeoing in her circuit finals for quite some time. And Terry, they run the ranch at home, and they raise several horses and have several different studs. So today, what they've come on to show us is how a horse learns, what the nature of a horse is, what kind of things you can use to benefit you and what kind of things you can not use to benefit you, and how to break a horse, what broke is. Dolly says, I don't want to be on TV today. Anyway, we're glad that they're here. A little bit about Jill here. She was a city horse-crazed kid from South Dakota, and she bugged her parents until she could get a horse, and they got her one. She grew up learning 4-H and running barrels through 4-H and FFA and stuff like that. So for all you girls out there that are horse crazy, it can be done, as we can see when we watch the NFR this year. So let's saddle up and learn from Jill. Jill's now going to take us through some of the things that have helped make her a winner. She's going to talk about some of the things how her horse learns and the nature of the horse. I forgot to mention that Jill came to school in Texas at West Texas A&M, and she also taught horsemanship classes, and she's also done a lot of other disciplines like dressage, hunter, jumper. Yes. So we're also incorporating a lot of other things. Yes. So I'll turn it over to Jill and let her get started.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. The first thing I'd like to say about the basic nature of the horse is that horses are herd animals. They feel safety in numbers, and they are preyed upon. We have to remember that. Horses are the prey that the predators are looking for. So it's kind of bred out of them in this day and age. But when you go back to the basic nature of the horses, they're a herd animal, and they want to be together for safety reasons. And then the second thing I think that we forget is they're not human, and they don't think like humans, and a lot of times we attribute way too many human characteristics to a horse. But actually horses are of the moment animals. You know, their natural instincts, fight or flight, we all know that. Their first instinct is to run from what they're afraid of. Their second instinct is to fight, and we try not to ever bring out the fight in them, but occasionally we get carried away, and we do. But anyway, the way they learn is from the release of a pressure or the release of the signal that you give them. So I'll start out, this is Marie, and she's pretty broke. It's going to be hard to kind of go through some of this, but actually horses have two sides to their brain, and when you start training, you have to remember that whatever you teach them on the left side, you also have to teach them on the right side. Just because they can do it to the left doesn't mean they can do it to the right. So a lot of people get in trouble even when you go to get on your broke horse and you're going to step on the right side and your horse freaks out. Well, you didn't teach him how to get on from the right side. So, but basically in these barrel horses, I want them to go forward. And on a young horse, forward, and you want them to learn to center on your reins so that I can put my hand here. See, and she's wanting to go back to Dolly, and that's okay. A lot of times you can use magnets like another horse or an out gate or something like that to help your horse to understand what you want him to do. But this is just walking the circle, and I want this horse to move around my leg and to give her nose, and I don't want to have to pull. If I have to pull, I need more leg. You ride from your leg to your hand, and that comes from the dressage and the English part of all this. Your leg drives them forward into the bridle, and at the early stages of this, you really don't have any vertical flexion. It's mostly just lateral. I want this nose to come around, and see, she's kind of dropping into the circle a little bit. That's all right. I'm just going to take her nose up a little. So you move your hip here, and catch that up a little, and straighten the circle up. Thank you. And I think the big thing, you have to, like the release. It's the release of the pressure. I'm going to put my foot in this mare, and I'm going to take her nose, and when she gives, I'm going to release. I'm not pulling. I'm just asking and giving it back, and I'm bumping this leg on her. Okay, that's enough for that. And then the easiest thing for these horses to do is to keep it on the same side. So you start on the left and then you go to the right. But I always want to walk this circle, leg first, follow this rein. And then a lot of times this, I can't make this work, but that's not to say it's not the wrong thing to do. But if I want my horse to go that way, first I'm going to go off straight. But I missed my spot right there. I can't go that way without turning around and going back. And I don't want to go back because I'm on a right-handed circle. So I want to just send her out forward here. There. Send her out so she centers on my reins. And a lot of people, you'll see them do, they'll come here and then they'll say, oh, gee, I want to go over there, and then they'll do this. And all that does is takes away from your horse's balance and their forward motion. Now I'm going to show you some things on Dolly that I chose to ride her because she's farther along than Marie, and it'll just be easier for you to see what I'm talking about. First of all, Charlotte had asked me earlier why I have a tendency to go straighter at my first barrel than a lot of people do. And I believe that my horses have enough bend and flex to them. And back to the contact thing, I try to keep a little contact on them and keep that nose tip to the right. And then I'll let them go to the back side here, and then I want them to turn and leave here straight across. And that's kind of why I do that. And when I let my horses get out here too far, it seems like they want to take too many steps around that barrel, and they want to leave it kind of bent, and I want them to leave these corners straight. So when I get up here to the third barrel, I'll just let her trot up in here and I'll show you. All this stuff we taught this horse earlier is going to come to competition runs. All right, I want to move this horse over, give her a little pocket. So I'm going to pick this inside rein up, inside foot, bending, bending, bending around here. And then on the back side, I'm going to turn her. Outside rein, outside leg's going to finish that turn. And all these little exercises do is keep this horse soft and thinking, so when you get in a predicament here, you can actually pick them up off a barrel and move them out if you need to. Or if you get to the back side here and they're wanting to hang, you can move this leg and bump them back in. And a lot of times, back to Charlotte's question about losing that hip, I'll come in, and preferably for me, I'll do this. Get your hip coming up here where it's supposed to be. If they're not wanting to leave a turn, I'll keep this really bend, and I'll push that hip. Get it up there where it's supposed to be. Line your hip up with your shoulder. And you'd be surprised how efficient that is, because it makes them softer in the jaw and in the shoulder, or in their rib cage. But there's a fine line between doing that and getting them on their front end too. Because if you let them switch that hind leg out, then you're going to get in trouble. But if I have a horse that's just not really working on very well, then I can come to the backside and say, come here, come here, come here, come here. Turn around, and I'll turn him, make sure my outside leg and rein's working. But you can see I got my reins pretty short here, and that comes all back to that contact thing. When I take off for the first barrel, I'm going to have this horse up in the bridle, so that when I go to my horn, I still got a hold of her, but I can give it to her and I can take it back and say, come here, and I can give it back to her.
That's all for today, folks.
Join us next month for a brand new show.
Let's ride this sunset.
All right, let's do it.